Hello.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Welcome. How you going,
Uh,
dude?
hey, good. How you doing?
Good.
Sorry
And
about yesterday. There was a
dude,
miscommunication as
time
far as the
zones, man. Time
time.
zones
bro.
will
They
fuck us
suck.
all always. Especially being in Australia, like where we have things like daylight savings, just but not for
Yeah,
every state, just for just for like 90% of the states.
that's confusing, huh?
It
Well,
sucks,
for
man.
for me, it's because the whole band is on like the East Coast of the U.S. and I'm on the West Coast, so it's like a lot of times the times get communicated in East Coast times.
Oh
So
yeah.
I
Oh,
was like, "Oh yeah, cool. It's at 3." And then I saw an email like at like 12:30 or something like, "Oh, they're like waiting for you," and I was like, "Fuck."
how
Free for
how does
you
that go?
guys.
Obviously, first of all, thanks for hanging out with us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of
We've
course.
wanted to
Yeah.
chat to you guys for quite a while now. Big fans. Um, how does that go? Like, obviously, the world now is much easier with things like you can talk
Yeah,
to
yeah.
you can do all sorts of stuff from distance. How does that go for you in terms of how often you actually get to spend in a room with the guys playing and all that sort of stuff?
I mean, yeah, right now we pretty much only are in the same room playing before a tour, really. So like, we have a tour coming up in March, so like I'll probably fly out there like, maybe 4 or 5 days early, and then we'll rehearse for like 3 or 4 days, kind of get things ready, and then basically head out on the tour. So yeah, it's not really that much time. Everybody kind of works on the songs on their own, then we get together and just put it together in the set.
How does that
Um,
go from a creativity standpoint? Like, do you enjoy that process of doing your own thing in your own space, or do you feel like there is
um,
something to be said for being in a room together?
Yeah, next album, I think. Well, because for this most recent album, we sent back and forth a lot of stuff, and I don't think really think it's the best. I mean, it worked out okay, but it definitely takes a little bit longer. And a lot of times, it's like they would send me some riffs and stuff, and then I would write drums to it, and I send it back to them, and then it'd be like, oh, actually, we like changed all that. So then I just like, I was like, I just like wasted all my time.
Yeah.
uh, so I'm hoping for the next one to like fly out there, for like a week or two at least, and just be in the same room and just write. So.
Do you think they
Hopefully.
do that just to fuck with you a little bit as well?
Maybe, yeah. Like I'll send him these like shitty riffs that we know we're not going to use, and then yeah, could
Yeah,
be.
cool, cool, cool. I'll go fuck myself. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, but I
Well,
mean, yeah, we worked it out okay. I mean, I'm happy with how the songs turned out. I think it could be a little bit less painful to do it in
yeah.
person.
Yeah,
So
that's the thing that most people don't get is like you see the end product and they don't realize like all the stuff that goes into creating that is they get this either music video or the album, whatever, and they're like, this is sick, it must have been so good doing that. But realizing, oh, like I had to do that song 4 times because they changed this and
yeah,
I wasn't in the room at the time. That does
exactly.
add an interesting dynamic.
Which speaking of doing things 4 times, when I was recording drums, actually, we had to record hymns and dissonance, the song, like I'm pretty sure 3 times. I had to record it.
Thankfully, it's not a hectic
Yeah,
song that you
yeah,
go
yeah. At
crazy
least
on.
it's nice
Yeah.
So
and cruisy.
It was pretty funny because it was like, no, I think that was the first song we started with because I was like, oh yeah, I felt like really comfortable with it. I was like, I could probably knock this out, like super fast. Uh, and we got everything set up, spent like a day or whatever, day or two getting like the drum set up and tuned and like the tones all right. And then when we finally like went to start recording, I can't remember what happened. Like we made it almost all the way through the song, and then I feel like Zach is the guitar player. We were recording with him. Like his computer just like died or something. Like
No.
we were like, it just like boom, like shut down. Like didn't save anything. I was like, oh god, all right, we got to restart. We like restarted from the beginning. Got almost to the end, and then it was like, oh wait, one of these mics is like fucked up or something like that. So we recorded the whole thing with like a mic. It was like messed up. So then it was like, all right. At this point, it was like 4 in the morning or something, and it was like, okay, we'll do it
the,
tomorrow. And then the next
the
day we
song
did
is
it
cursed.
again. Yeah.
It's
Yeah. It was,
crazy though. Like, I mean, like with how far technology has come with, accessibility and availability and all that sort of stuff to be able to do as much as we can do now musically. When
yeah.
things start to shut down and you've got to go sort of back to basics or fight or flight mode, it makes it
Yeah.
like really, really difficult because we live in a world where it's set up now for artists to be able to work and collaborate from a distance or even together so easily.
Hmm. It's true. Well, and with drums, there's so many moving pieces, that like it's easy for things to, if you're not very careful and very meticulous with it, it's easy for things to get fucked up. Because
Yeah.
once you get like But once we get the mic set up and like everything tuned, it's like, okay, that's it.
Don't move.
Now we need to try to keep that exactly how it is for like a week, basically, while you
Yeah.
record all the songs, right? Because it's like,
Yeah.
we don't record all the songs straight through. It's like, okay, I'll do like one or two songs in one day. Next day we'll do one or two songs. It's kind of like that. And if you like bump a microphone, even if you move it by like a few inches or a foot, it's really hard to get it back to the exact same spot.
Yeah.
And it sounds slightly different than all the other songs, which is like, if you're, listening to it with all the guitars and stuff, you might not notice it, but it's like whoever's mixing it, it's like, it makes their job harder, so it's like you try to keep everything like, yeah. So there's drums are by far the most annoying and hardest part to record.
I feel like though there's so many people out there now, especially metal. There's so many music nerds out there though that they'd listen to the album, they'd be like, "So, bro, what's going on with the floor tom on track 5 to 6?" They'd pick it. They'd pick it.
You might be right.
Now, look, I do want to ask about the drums specifically for a moment. Obviously, you had some very, very big shoes to fill. Alex was a phenomenal drummer. How was it? Obviously, you've got the chops. You're playing on the album is fucking fantastic. So well done. How was it coming into the band after they released an album like Kin, and then they go, by the way, we're going to release the fastest, hardest, heaviest album we've ever done?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like you said, there's big shoes to fill. I was like a little bit nervous about it, at first, because I was, it's like Whitechapel's always had great drummers, and it's a lot of people that I like look up to, and I've always enjoyed their playing too. So for me, it was like kind of was like, whoa, like, all right, here we go, But I think they gave me a lot of freedom, and when they said they wanted to do like a really heavy album, I was like, okay, I was like totally on board, and honestly, like it kind of makes my job easier because it gave me a really clear idea of what we wanted to do versus it being like all right, it's like, all right, we want it to be super heavy. So I kind of kept things really kind of lean and, try to make it super heavy. One, while still having fun with it, but try to make it pretty straightforward, I guess I would say. And yeah, it definitely, I think it was funny. We had a joke like there. Everybody was like, yeah, we're going to do this like really heavy album. And everybody's going to be like, oh man, Brandon saved the band or something. Or like, since Brandon came back, they're super heavy again, and which is like, I guess is partly true, but not really. It was going to happen either way, I think, no matter who was on. It's not like I came in and was like, all right, guys, we got to, do this or whatever. So
that's a cool thing though for you to, because you often hear like the horror stories of people joining bands and then the next album is like a real departure from their sound and they get the hate. That's a really cool thing for you and your experience of the band being like, oh, like it actually worked out that they welcome with open arms because of that. Because you do hear stories about that. Was there a fear of I'm not going to be welcome into this scene by the fans?
I didn't really think about it, to be honest. I think everything just felt right with the band, you know what I mean? So like for me, it's like, I think as long as that's right and like the songs are good, which I was happy with the songs, then it's like, I don't think I wasn't worried about people like really questioning it. But yeah, it's like, like there's big shoes to fill, so I guess I was a little bit worried that people were like, oh, it's not as good as like blah, blah, blah or something, but I haven't really seen anything like that. I think, like I said, Whitechapel's has so many good drummers, but they're all good in their own kind of way, like Kevin was like a straightforward, like deathcore guy, and then like, I feel like when Naveen did his stuff on the Valley, it was more kind of groovy and like tasty. And then Alex is kind of more like tech deathy, kind of proggy, so it's like every album's been kind of different. So, and Ben Harkerode is very, kind of like gospel choppy kind of guy. So yeah, everybody's kind of had different sounds. So, the hardest part for me is like, at least live, is like trying to sound like all those people. You know what I mean?
That was one of my next question is, do you try and emulate their sound or do you try to make it your own?
I do a little both, so there's like, I think there's like parts in the song that are super important for it to be like as close to the album as possible, right? Or else it sounds weird, like I picture like the Phil Collins "In the Air Tonight" song. Like if you heard a cover band playing that and the drummer doesn't go doo, 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 you're gonna be upset, right? It's like that drum part has to be there. It's part of the the composition. So there's parts like that too in the Whitechapel songs, but then I think there's other parts where it's not quite as like as necessary, I guess. It's more of like a transitional thing versus like a musical, right?
Yeah.
So then with those parts, I try to kind of have fun. But I try to emulate them within my own kind of vocabulary as much as I can, and I'll even go as far as like there's songs that like Ben Harkerwood played on, and Ben was notorious for like he would like improv a lot live and stuff. And on those songs, I try to actually improv more.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Other songs, so it's like I try to have a little more freedom and like fun with those songs because I'm like, okay, I think this is sort of kind of how Ben would have played it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Even if I'm not like actually playing every single note the same way he would have.
Where are you most comfortable in terms of like Whitechapel's discography? Where are you most comfortable? Obviously, you wrote and played the stuff in the album. Are you more comfortable with the more extreme stuff, or do you like a little bit more space to explore and have that fun live?
Yeah, I think it honestly depends on the night, I guess. Some nights I feel like the faster songs feel better for me, and then other nights I feel like the heavier kind of like groovy stuff feels better. I don't know. In general, I think I kind of feel more comfortable playing like the Valley songs, but we've also played a lot of those for a long time, so I'm not sure if that's just like
practice.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, but yeah, there are some nights where I get up there and it's like, like the last tour we did, we started with This Is Exile, which is like pretty fast. And, some nights I get up there and I had like maybe a lot of adrenaline. And I was like, oh yeah, this feels really good. And the other nights it's like, maybe I'm too tired or something. I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm like struggling to keep up here, So
needed more caffeine leading into this one.
Yeah, exactly.
What about coming into the band as a fan previously? What were you like, oh cool, I can't wait to play this. I'm excited to be part of this going forwards.
Yeah, actually, it was funny because Whitechapel's like one of the few deathcore bands that I actually listened to before joining, so I'm not really too much of a deathcore guy. I mean, I had heard, Whitechapel, Suicide Silence, As Blood Runs Black. I've heard a lot of those, but it wasn't really ever something that I was super into.
Yeah.
But I was actually really a big fan of This Is Exile. So like those songs in particular, I like, so there was a couple tours ago, some of the guys were like, oh yeah, like, like pick a song or whatever. Like, what would you want to play? And I wanted to play Possession. So I really like that song. A lot of the Exile stuff I really like. I like This Is Exile. I also like A New Era of Corruption too. So, hopefully we could play some more of those songs soon too. But yeah,
how does it go now with such an extensive back catalogue, picking the set lists and things, and how much diplomacy is there when it comes to that? Because obviously Phil first and foremost needs to be comfortable with what he's going to sing, and how hard is that to pick from so many songs?
Yeah, I mean, it is tough because there's a lot, but I also feel like I think we've kind of been slowly like, it may not seem like it, but we've been playing a lot of songs, but we just like every tour we maybe change out like 2 or 3, and then you end up with like a new set list eventually. You know what I mean? So it's when I'm thinking about it, it feels like we're sticking with the same songs, but that's because we're like slowly changing them out.
Yeah.
But if you see us one time, and then you see us like a year later, it's probably like almost completely different. But yeah, I mean, as far as like choosing songs, like the guys know a lot of songs. I mean, they've played like almost all of them live, I'm sure, at some point, so they know kind of how a lot of the songs go over well live. So I think we take a lot of that into it. It's like, okay, like somebody's like, oh, we should play, this song. And then somebody's like, oh, well, last time we played that, it was kind of awkward or weird, or like, the crowd didn't get too into it. It's like, oh, but then this song is always good, So like we kind of take that a lot into account too. It's like how things have gone over in the past. And then also like how it'll fit in the set list, from like an energy standpoint, and also like a tuning for the guitars standpoint.
Right? For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, the songs we'll play them in like maybe 3 or 4 block sets, right? It's like, okay, all these songs are in the same tuning, then they'll go change guitars, right? So a lot of that has to do with it. It's like, okay, we already have all these songs are in like A, so then we don't really need another A song. Maybe we need something, so like, it has a lot to do with that too. So, I feel like when we do the set list, it's not just like a random, like, oh, let's just get a bunch of songs. It's all pretty well planned out by where, like I said, like the tuning, how well the crowds reacted to it, and then just like the pacing, right? It's like if we played a bunch of slow songs, like, okay, well now we need to bring something to pick up the energy.
Up. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Coming from not being in the deathcore space as much yourself, how's touring life? Because obviously, like, you tend to tour with bands akin, no pun intended, to the same sort of like demographic. Has there been any experience there where you've been like, holy fuck, that band converted me, I'm really into this there? Or is it something that you still aren't as into that world as you were?
I mean, I feel like I've gotten more into it, but I don't know, it's still not really my thing, I guess. I don't know what it is about it. I feel like, I guess maybe it's like breakdowns. It's not that I don't like breakdowns, but I feel like a lot of times with deathcore bands, it's like the breakdown is like the most important thing, or like, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, if the whole song is a breakdown, then the breakdown doesn't really hit. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So I don't know. I can't really pinpoint. It's not that I don't like deathcore and stuff. It's just that's never really been like my thing. But we have toured with some awesome bands. But it's funny, the bands that I'm like always I'm like the most excited about touring about is like not deathcore bands. Like we toured with Cannibal Corpse, and I was like, all right, I gotta watch Cannibal Corpse. Or like Meshuggah, I watched like probably like usually like okay, if I'm on a tour, I'll watch like a whole band set like all the way through at least once. So I try to, right? But Meshuggah, I probably watched their whole set like 15 times or something, like a dozen times at least,
I feel like Meshuggah is one of those bands though that just for sheer amazement of what they can do. And
totally.
I feel like how important they are is kind of a little bit lost on the modern music fan. Because they're just incredible.
Yeah, just everything they do is just top notch. It's just like the sound, the lighting, they're playing, the musicianship, and just everything is just like, yeah, it's like I feel like they kind of set the standard for live bands and touring bands. They've been doing it for
a long time,
30 something years now at this point, at least, so probably even more, almost like 40 or something, so it's like they've got it like pretty well dialed in, so it was pretty inspiring to tour with them.
So build us your dream lineup. What's a tour for you individually, not for the band? What's a band tour lineup? Say 4 bands and Whitechapel that you would like to play with. Be selfish on this one. Fuck the other guys what they want. What do you want?
Yeah. Man, that's so hard. Meshuggah, I think, again. Got to tour with them again.
The bands can be alive or dead as well. So yeah.
Yeah. Necrophagist.
Oh.
Yeah, Necrophagist. Especially with so like Marco Miniman's one of my favorite drummers, and he played with them once. So Necrophagist was with Marco Miniman on drums.
Yeah, cool. I like you specifying there. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. I got maybe Slayer with Dave Lombardo on drums.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you're very specific drum centric on these as well.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe one more. Okay, Megadeth. But like Rust in Peace lineup, Megadeth.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah. Did you see? I'm just gonna go left of here because when you said the Slayer thing there, did you see the Aussie tour package that they're doing for that one-off show in Birmingham?
No,
dude, this thing is so they've just announced it's like Ozzy's last show. He's like retiring from it. Parkinson's getting too much. So it's Ozzy with Black Sabbath, and then it's like Metallica, Pantera, Slayer. Like it's just everyone that's fucking big in the world of metal in the last 15 years, 30 years, awesome. 50 years playing this one show.
That's great.
Insane.
Every European metal festival is just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, for this one-off festival in Birmingham. Yeah. Dude, Sabbath's original lineup. Like insane.
Insane.
But yeah, just the Slayer comeback.
So let's talk about, obviously, we've already touched on how heavy the new album is, and it is crushingly heavy.
Thank you.
It's always been interesting to me with Whitechapel. Like, let's be honest, metal fans can be the most opinionated and fickle fans in the world.
Yeah.
It was amazing to me. Now, I know that there was sort of like Phil started trickling clean vocals into songs throughout a couple of the albums before, but it was amazing to me how well received Kin was. And on announcement that this was going to be the heaviest thing the band's ever done, I found it so strange to see in the comments so many people saying, are we going to get any of Phil's cleans? And how much of a discussion within the group was there about that specifically, and whether you should or whether you shouldn't? Or
basically from the beginning, Phil was like, I'm not going to do any cleans on it. Like it was pretty much decided. I mean, I think there was a few parts where he like had an idea for maybe like kind of, but either way, it was going to be something that was kind of in the background or something. You know what I mean? It wasn't going to be like a, like Third Depth or one of those songs on the Valley where it's like a heavily, prominent part of the song. But he was pretty adamant about it from the beginning about not doing it. And I don't know if, I think they felt like they had kind of gone as far in that direction as they could, at least for the time being. I don't know if it's something that we won't ever return to again, but I think, it was time to go back to a heavier direction, but with the mature musicality that they had, learned over the years, right? It's like because it's like I feel like this new album is as heavy as the old stuff, right? But it's more refined too. You know what I mean? It's less wild too. You know, the song structure and stuff, like there's actually verses and choruses and stuff, not just parts actually repeat, not just random riffs
Yeah,
for
sure.
3 minutes or whatever. Which I mean, there's nothing wrong with that too. But I feel like it's got a little bit. It's kind of a good mix of both. The modern kind of sound minus
For
the clean
sure,
vocal.
yeah, for sure. And I did notice, like, maybe that was the case with the Valley and Kin, was that the musicality that the band had learned allowed them to do it in a way that couldn't be anything but respected. But I will say, with the new stuff, it's really cool to hear that there's some obvious nods to things like thrash and hardcore and even punk throughout it in the style of the guitars and the drums. Was that also another conscious thing of you guys trying to pull from other influences and make it known, or was it a case of like this just suit the song?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of how the songs turned out. I don't think we were like super like specifically like, oh, we're gonna like emulate like so and so here or whatever. But I will say it's like you can kind of hear. I mean, we wrote the songs over a while, like a good probably about a year almost, and you can kind of hear. I feel like the bands that we were like touring with, seep in there a little bit. There's some songs where it's like a little more Meshuggah-ish influenced, way that maybe kind of subconsciously synced in there when we were touring with Meshuggah or something, and then some more like kind of just heavy death metal stuff that was maybe like written right after we were touring with Cannibal Corpse or something, So, there's stuff like that, but I don't think we were like specifically trying to like, all right, here's going to be like some Meshuggah sounding stuff or whatever, I think it's going to happen. And I mean, we all have our own specific influences that get kind of melded together when we start writing stuff. It's like I like a lot of thrash stuff, so like if given the opportunity, I'm going to do some, and then Phil wanted a lot kind of more of the old school kind of death metal influence, so he like was kind of Phil wrote a lot of the riffs, so like Hymns and Dissonance, like that's almost entirely his song, as far as riffs and stuff go. So he wanted a lot more of that kind of just straight up death metal-y kind of chugging to it, and then Zach and all the other guys have they all have their own stuff. Ben, I feel like, is responsible for a lot of the more melodic kind of stuff you hear, so yeah, just kind of that's just the way it all worked out together, I guess.
Before, you were talking about previous albums, and you refer to the band as they a bit. Is there any feeling of like, because there's been quite a few drummers throughout the band, do you feel like it's your band now? Do you feel part of that, or does it still feel like you've stepped into Phil's shoes and like instead of saying we, there was they, and it might be a subconscious thing. Do you feel like, this is my band? Oh, cat, we love a cat.
Yeah. Attention span like this.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a subconscious thing. I mean, I feel really welcomed, by the guys. But also, I mean, there are things where it's like, if I'm referring to like the Valley or something, I wasn't there. You know what I mean? So it's like, on the Valley, we did this. It's like, well, I wasn't even there for the Valley. You know what I mean? So I feel really accepted though. It's like, I don't know. I feel it doesn't feel like it's like there's some weird disconnect. Even though I live further away from the rest of the guys and stuff. But now
from a fan perspective, do you feel like the fans have been as welcoming and accepting?
I think so. Yeah, I haven't seen really anything super negative about it. Everybody seems really cool, and a lot of people. I was playing with Enterprise Earth before, and a lot of people were like say stuff like, "Oh man, I was sad when he left Enterprise Earth, but he's like a perfect fit in Whitechapel." So stuff like that. That
great.
It makes me feel like I made the right decision and stuff too. It's not just like, oh man, he was way better in Enterprise Earth or something. You know what I mean? So
yeah. And it's weird because it's kind of like a double-handed compliment sort of thing. Oh, you're great in them, but not in this. But I think like, especially for someone like yourself who's already proven that they've got the chops, it's just nice to start new things. It's nice to try different things, and like that's part of it's part of having any job is you want to keep looking for a bigger and better opportunity if you've got it.
Totally. Yeah, definitely.
Tour coming up. How are you feeling about is this like first time playing much of this live?
Yeah, well, we played 2 of the new songs live already. So we played Visceral Wretch and Hymns and Dissonance. And on the new tour, we're going to add in a couple more. Cool. I think 3 more. So it'll be a good chunk of the set. It will be made up of that. I'd say probably a good third of the set. And then the rest will be old school bangers and other hits. But yeah, so I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see how, I mean, obviously Hymns and Visceral have gone over really well live. I'm excited to see how the other ones go too. And yeah, I mean, like I said, you guys have heard the whole record, right?
Yes.
Already? Yeah,
yes.
I'm really excited for everybody else to hear it too. So everybody I've talked to that's heard the whole thing has loved it. So I'm really excited to see how it all goes over too. And I think
I think look, in terms of the deathcore extreme metal crowd, I don't think you're going to find anyone that's not really pleased with where this album's gone. It's
100%.
It's fucking crushing. It is relentless.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you like the 2 singles that have come out so far, you're gonna like it. Like they're all very I mean, every song has its own kind of vibe and stuff, but I feel like they're all kind of within that same kind of thing. It's not like we didn't pull any like tricks. They ain't gotcha songs. Like, oh, this was got
I feel like
acoustic guitars and Phil singing some Kumbaya
stuff. Yeah. But I also feel like in where the previous albums have had a couple of those little things to break it up. This is the album here is broken up and there's space where it needs space in a completely different way, and it's done really, really well because it does give you those little moments of a breath that you might need.
Totally.
Look, you don't get a break on the album, but
that's
what you signed up for. What track are you looking forward to playing live the most off the album if you had to pick one?
I think the first song, Prisoner 666, I think that's going to go over well. Because that one to me kind of feels like a Saw's Law kind of 2.0 kind of thing. That one, I'm not looking forward to playing Hate Cult Ritual. That song is going to be hard.
That was going to be my next question. And
it's pretty just like fast for a really long time. Mammoth God, I think is going to be cool live. I don't know if we're playing that on the next tour, but that one I think will be really cool too. So yeah, there's quite a few.
Yeah, and that's as I think in the realm that you're in is pushing the limits of like the technicality, the speed work, the heaviness, and then being like, well, fuck, now I need to replicate this every night.
Yeah, exactly.
Where I hate myself for this one.
Yeah, we just got to be strategic about where we place it in the set. I think will help too. If it's like the first song, I'm gonna hate my life, But if it's like, or the last song, if it's at the beginning or the end, it's gonna be bad.
It's very strategic in the middle. Yeah.
Have warmed up, but I have energy too.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go back to where you were along the lines of his Dream Festival. This is another question we like to ask. Obviously, anniversary tours for bands have been a big thing over the last, few years. What is one album that you would love to see performed in its entirety from any artist of any genre?
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah, we don't fuck around.
We've done this question, and my answer's changed every single time.
I said Megadeth, Rest in Peace earlier. I think that's gonna be my answer.
Cool.
Which they did it, but I missed it. I saw the Countdown to Extinction one, but I didn't see the.
That's so devastating when you miss like the album tour that you like really pumped for. There's one coming up for us in Australia that's it's the week that I'm supposed to have my child. That week, and I'm like, I don't know if I can get away for that one.
What one is it?
It's
kind of important.
It's the Juliana Theory Spill Canvas. They're both playing 15 or 25 year anniversary of an album. It's 2 albums I love back to back, and I was like, I think I'm just gonna have to miss that one, and that sucks.
Yeah,
heartbreaking.
You kind of need to be around for other things.
I feel like it's important for me to be a supportive husband, father at that time. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's finish off with some hard questions. Let's finish off with some would you rathers. Right. Let's go. I feel like extreme metal is parallel with the world of fantasy and nerds and wizards.
All right. You consider yourself a nerd because we are absolute nerds.
Oh yeah.
Okay, go.
Team Gandalf or Dumbledore? Who are you on? Who would win in a fight?
Gandalf for sure.
Hey, fun fact, I've come around on this one, by the way.
Have you?
Yeah, I went and did a heap of research, and I read heaps of stuff about like the back catalogue of the Silmarillion and all this stuff of Lord of the Rings. And I was like, Gandalf's like, he's not a human.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I didn't know that. He's beyond human.
Hey, fun fact. I'm going to derail this for a moment. I found out a fun fact recently. You know the show Mr. Bean? Yeah. The show Mr. Bean. Do you know Mr. Bean is an alien?
Yeah. No. I didn't. Oh, because
at the very start. Well, yeah, like his character is meant to be an alien. That's why he's so weird, and he's always trying to fit in. At the very start, and people forget this, you see him land on the ground with a beam of light. It's because he's an alien.
Oh, Mr. Bean is an alien. I think he said he's in Alien, like the movie. I was like, he's in the movie.
Oh. You know that creature that comes through the chest? Mr. Bean.
Yeah, no, he's an alien. I only just found that out.
I didn't. I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah,
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely right. Now you can see, be like, well, yeah, you're not just a weird, shitty human. You're actually not a human, and that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
All right, give him another would you rather. What do we got?
Metallica or Megadeth? I think I know the answer to this one.
Yeah, Megadeth.
You're the
Megadeth.
very first person to ever say that on our chat.
Really?
Yeah.
It's funny because I feel like it's hard because I really like
it's a Lars thing, isn't it?
I really like Metallica a lot, but I feel like this Megadeth's always had better drummers. I mean, Lars is fine, but it's just Megadeth had Vinnie Colaiuta play drums on an album, and if you don't know who Vinnie Colaiuta is, he's like one of the greatest drummers in the world. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, he's like a session guy, and it's funny. He's more of like a jazz guy, but he just happened to play on like a Megadeth album. They probably just had no drummers, and they're like, all right, well, who do we get? Just like this guy who's like the best. You know what I mean? So
who do we get? The best guy? Cool. Well,
yeah. Is that something that you sort of look at in drummers as well? Is you like seeing them out of their comfort zone or do something that they completely wouldn't
totally
be associated with?
I think for me, I just like variety. You know what I mean? It's like, of course, people have their sound. You know what I mean? But it's also like, especially in metal, it's like if it's just like nonstop blast beats, I get like pretty bored pretty quickly. You know what I mean? So it's like I want to see at least some kind of other something to keep my interest, I guess. You know what I mean? It's like
sure.
I would like to know, what's a band, one artist that you listen to that you think that fans might not expect of you?
Oh man, I listen to a lot of like jazz fusion stuff. So I like Cassiopeia is like a Japanese jazz fusion band. Led Zeppelin's like my favorite band of all time. So Zeppelin,
wow.
rock.
Zeppelin is my answer to the bands I'd like to see in full. That is my go-to band that I've never been able to see, obviously. And a Zeppelin live, I was just watching some footage the other day of my dad and I were talking about. It's one of my dad's favorite band, and being like, that band was so ahead of the time and so influential. I would love to see that.
Yeah, I mean, and talked about like their first like 5 albums are just like insanely good. Like no other band has
perfect
albums like that. I think, you know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's finish off with the hard one. Okay. This is we ask every guest this the first time they join us on the channel. You're going to go on stage first night of the tour, headline tour. You're ready to play these new tracks. You're ready to go. You have to put on to play the set either cold, wet socks or cold, wet underwear. What do you choose and why?
We know the answer. He's a drummer.
It's going to be underwear, right?
It's going to be underwear. Yeah, underwear.
Yeah. Every drummer chooses that. It's
I can sit in my underwear, but there's no way I'm going to be like with my feet.
In the trench foot. Yeah. You know what surprises me is no drummers play barefoot anymore.
Some do, but yeah, I don't know. I actually used to, but for me, it was just like kind of a pain, because I don't know. It's kind of like, sometimes it'd be super cold and like the pedals are metal, my feet are cold, or like I like step in like a spilled beer or something, you know what I mean? My socks are all like gross or whatever, So yeah, just stuff like that, and then it's like you got to wear shoes to the stage and take them off and put them back on.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's just that tour life that taught you better.
Exactly,
I like
but yeah, I'm cold wet underwear. Good idea. Maybe they'll keep me cold through the set. I might actually.
You know what someone needs to do? They need to put in like some sort of like Velcro topped. I shouldn't say this on a channel because then people steal it. Like a Velcro topped like ice thing for the seat. So then you can like put in the freezer, Velcro on. It doesn't slide around, and then your butt stays cool for the whole thing.
That's actually not bad.
That's you know what you can have that.
There you go.
If you can. I'm not going to do that. It gives me no benefit, but.
All right. Yeah. Well, we know you're a busy man. Thanks so much for spending time. Hopefully, and if you're not allowed to say anything, don't say it, but hopefully little old Australia is on the future plans again very soon.
It is. I don't know how concrete it is, but...
All right. Very good. We're
being on the plans in any way is good enough for us for now.
Last I heard it was planned for sometime this year, but again, I don't know. It's not anything...
Fingers are well and truly crossed. Thanks again for hanging out, man. You absolutely crushed it on the album. I'm sure you know that.
Congratulations,
yeah,
man. It's
really well done.
Relentlessly intense. The fans are not going to be disappointed.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks so much, dude. We'll catch you when you're out here.
Yep. I'll see you.
Peace.